Hello. Well, yet another JP Morgan banker has killed himself. This time, the only details available at this time is that this JP Morgan banker killed himself from a JP Morgan building in Hong Kong by leaping off a 30-story uh, building. And his last name was Lee, L.I. Those are the only details being released. It seems to me to be extremely curious that JP Morgan said, they said JP Morgan spokesperson couldn't confirm at first that it was indeed a JP Morgan employee that committed suicide, or allegedly, I have to say allegedly committed suicide, because again, these string of suicides are very, very suspicious. But yet, as soon as it happened, JP Morgan immediately canceled a meeting they had with another bank. So if it had nothing to do with their employee, why would they cancel a meeting they had with another bank? Which makes no sense. It seems to imply that they obviously knew it was their employee and just lied when they said they couldn't confirm that it was their employee. So, every single detail about these suicides, the facts surrounding them seem to be super, super shady. Now, there are people that said, oh, people are just sensationalizing these suicides because, look, it's just 6 or 7 bankers out of 250,000 JP Morgan bankers. Well, actually, all those bankers weren't even all JP Morgan bankers. They came from other banks like Deutsche Bank and so on. But that's not the point. The point isn't that the suicide rate of these bankers is not, is a very small percentage and not the same percentage or barely higher than the suicide percentage in society at large. That is not the point. The point is the suspicious nature of the facts surrounding these suicides. So it's not like you have low-level bank tellers offering themselves left and right. Not only do you have very, very high-level, multi-million-dollar earning bankers offering themselves, like Brooksmith, who was a very close personal friend of the Deutsche Bank CEO, Anshu Jain. He was a very close friend. So these are not low-level bankers. These are bankers that have a very high and intimate level of knowledge and sophisticated understanding of the very workings of these banks that are being investigated for fraud right now. That's the point of why these suicides are so shady and why people are suggesting that they're being suicided and that they aren't actually committing suicide. So you have people like the last JP Morgan banker was a Forex trader, and a whole bunch of banks are being investigated for Forex fraud right now. So let me read you the entire list, because I know it's Barclays, Royal Bank of Scotland, Citigroup, Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, of course, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Standard Chartered, and United Bank of Switzerland. So that is the whole point, is that these people that had an intimate knowledge of how these fraudulent practices and scams were pulled off by these banks are all of a sudden committing suicide. And when you look at Gabriel Magee, and not only that, they have connections to each other. So Gabriel Magee and the other JP Morgan banker who was executive director of JP Morgan Global Equities and oversaw the trading platform, and Gabriel Magee was actually, obviously, as head of IT, JP Morgan was one of the people that instituted the trading platform at JP Morgan. Well, when you look at 2013, I haven't yet seen the stats for fourth quarter 2014, but at least through the first 3 quarters of 2013, it was reported that JP Morgan had a perfect trading record for their proprietary accounts. In other words, the traders made money every single day of the first 3 quarters of 2013. So give or take, there's about 60 days a quarter. So that's 180 days. I know there's like a couple of holidays here and there where the banks were closed, the markets were closed, and weren't trading. So just say it's around 173 or something like that trading days. They had a perfect trading record. That is mathematically impossible to achieve unless you have some kind of time machine where you can travel into the future, see what's going to happen in the markets every day. Or the more plausible explanation, using Occam's razor, is that JP Morgan is committing massive fraud in the markets and manipulating the market so they can be profitable every single day. So that is like saying you're going to play 173 hands of blackjack in Vegas and win every single time. Not one hand you're going to lose. That's statistically impossible. If you won like 20 hands in a row, you'd probably be taken into some back room in Vegas. At least if you're not beat up for cheating, you're going to be blackballed from every casino in Vegas. But what goes on with these regulators? Nothing. These regulators don't punish JP Morgan for the criminal fraud that they're committing in these markets. And in fact, they are encouraging the fraud because they're looking the other way. They're not doing anything to rein in this atrocious criminal behavior. So maybe what's going on with all these bankers that are suiciding themselves is that JP Morgan is regulating these people that might have come forward to tell people what JP Morgan was doing in committing all this fraud. Now, the other interesting thing is, which hasn't made a lot of news, and I don't know if you have heard, is that the head of IT, JP Morgan, Gabriel Magee, that leapt to his death off the London headquarters JP Morgan building. Now, his parents, let me find the article because I don't want to misquote. I want to read exactly what his parents said, which seems to me to be extremely, extremely shady. Oh, before I go on, I also want to mention that on just 3 days last year, JP Morgan traders made more than $200 million on 3 days just trading for their proprietary accounts. So that is just insane. And don't tell me that these guys are smart enough to be able to have a perfect trading record for 3 quarters without committing massive, massive amounts of fraud. Okay, so I found the direct quotes. So this is what Gabriel Magee's mother, Nell, said. Quote unquote, "I want to know why JP Morgan has not had the decency to call me. I've spoken to the embassy, the coroner, the police. I want to know the truth. I want to know what happened. How was he able to get up there?" Now, this is what his father said. Gabriel Magee's father, Bill, said, quote unquote, "They have bothered to say nothing, which is very troubling. They should have had some sort of casualty assistance officer." So it's amazing that nobody at JP Morgan had the decency to call his parents. And his parents say they know that they had their number on file in his employee records and human resources. He said, they had our number, but yet when our son allegedly committed suicide, nobody at JP Morgan had the decency to call them to notify them. Nobody said anything. Nobody tried to contact the parents. Okay, so don't tell me nothing shady is going on with these suicides. And not only that, after this person jumped, apparently the body laid uncovered for all the other JP Morgan employees to see for 2 hours. Who leaves a body laying there? Who doesn't call an ambulance or EMT to have the body taken away? Who leaves it out in plain sight? It was uncovered for more than 2 hours, just laying there. So could that have been a warning to other JP Morgan employees that might wanted to have talked about what they knew about the fraud that JP Morgan has been committing? So, and not only that, okay, the body laid uncovered for at least 2 hours, just in a pool of blood, laying there for every office worker to see, and for every JP Morgan employee to see. And not only was the body left uncovered, it was left lying there for 4 to 4.5 hours before somebody finally sent for someone within JP Morgan to take the body away. 4.5 hours. So those facts, it just seems extremely indecent at best, and at worst, perhaps a warning to other JP Morgan employees. So right now, I would have to say that Stephen Cho, who is the head Forex trader at Goldman Sachs, and Anil Prasad, who was the head Forex trader Citigroup, who both resigned. And remember, Goldman Sachs and Citigroup are also being investigated right now for massive fraud and Forex trading. Those two have to be really, really nervous about what's going on. So let me know what you think. I just think that if you listen to all the facts that JPMorgan didn't even call the parent, Gabriel Magee, to notify them of what happened, and they had to find out through the news, which is crazy, or through other sources. They didn't really say how they found out, but they said nobody at JPMorgan ever contacted them about their son's death, which is crazy. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. And it's really interesting what is going down right now. So if you start connecting the dots too, I'm going to make a video very soon. I said that there are certain reasons why Bitcoin is being attacked so heavily. So if you watch my last video, which is about thinking positively, which talked about the links between the opium poppy fields and Afghanistan, and how Afghanistan, after the U.S. military occupation, went from producing 2 to 3% of the world's heroin supply to 98%, and then that drug money is laundered through the big global banks who profit from that, and you start connecting the dots, and connect the dots to Bitcoin. I'm going to connect all those dots, which I haven't heard anyone connect yet, and I'll give you my theories on why Bitcoin's price was slammed from 1,400 to last time I checked, it was a couple days ago, it was like 620, 625 on most of the major Bitcoin exchanges. Okay, so take care, and until next time, remain intensely curious. So long.